Hey again, everyone. Thank you for joining me. There's a lot of folks making a lot of content out there. So if you are engaged in my discussions, I want to let you know that it is very much appreciated. I have not come and talked to you in quite a while. I am still making content and will continue until I tell you that I'm not. Okay, so I'm still hanging around and I'm going to start in a new direction. Hopefully, I can start it today and see where this goes. I've got a little bit, I've got some notes here, a few things that I wrote down so I don't forget them on my opening talking to you. So, anyway, I've been making content with you for I think about 6 years now, and only when it became safe for me to make the content did I begin to do so. Prior to that, I was stalked and harassed. They watched me very, very closely, and some still do, to find out if they could do anything to me. And I know that sounds paranoid, and just because you're paranoid doesn't mean that they're not out to get you. They actually were, and they tried, but they failed. Anyhow, with that being said, I'll tell you what happened before I start to look at the notes. As many of you know, if you have followed any of my discussions for any length of time, you know that I've had several narcopaths that have been around me. I only talk about things that I have experienced personally, usually. I haven't used a lot of source material. I'm going to begin to start using some material that got me from where I was to where I am today. So, with that being said, I thought that everything was completely done and over with. The last vehicle that the narcopath could use was they love to use children in family court. The last date that they could use that vehicle ended back last year in June, when our youngest son turned 18 years old. And so I was able to finally breathe, because up to the very last day, you can't trust these people. They'll do nasty things. They'll poison your food. And I found that out. It took me a while to believe what folks had told me, but when I finally put two and two together, it is true that I have had several attempts on my life via the narcopath and her mother. So I'm going to go and start talking about this. And if y'all are still watching me, then again, feel free to comment. Go feel free to defend yourself about what I'm saying, because I know I'm right and I know that it's true. Anyway, for my internet friends, for the folks that have been hanging around with me for these years, I've been telling you that I'm completely 100% recovered and beyond the issues of what the narcopath has caused. And then I found out that that wasn't 100% true. And the reason why I'm telling you this is that my experiences that I share with you, they help me, and it's part of our being a human being to help other people. That's what we do. So we share our experiences with each other, and if I didn't tell you about this, then my story wouldn't be complete. So after our youngest son turned 18 last year, things began to melt down in my mind. I began to have severe complex PTSD that hit me out of nowhere, and I think it's because the situation finally ended and I could finally breathe again. It's kind of like taking your finger off of a wound that you have been holding for some amount of time. There's going to be some issues after that as well. So anyway, the cptsd hit real hard. It hit for months. I just didn't want to tell you all about it. I don't like to come to no matter what platform, the channel, and start complaining and giving you a bunch of toxic nonsense about how much I hate my family and how much I hate her. And I do, but I don't want to come here and give you that garbage, because that's not what it's about. Commiserating can be good. It's good for a time, and then you need to start solving the problem or problems. And whatever you're supposed to learn out of this, if you're supposed to, then you're supposed to move on, not to just continue to complain forever like I hear some people do, and it just becomes toxic and people don't want to hear it. So, and you need to move on as well. And it's hard to move on. I agree. It's extremely difficult. But I had these issues. I thought that was completely over, and I'll be walking around in my my mind just attacks me out of nowhere, and it's because of the abuse that I endured for literally my entire life. It was literally my entire life, and we're going to start talking about that too. We're going to widen the discussion to include some very extraordinary experiences that I've had, my take on why we have these experiences, why some of us seem to be having more difficult times than others. Some of us are very sensitive to what's happening in the world today, the global terrorism that we're seeing. Some of us know. I won't be naming names on this. It's not beneficial, so don't even ask. If you want to email me personally, and I do appreciate the emails and the concern that I don't make any content for you for a while, then I understand that as well. So anyhow, I will use publications, authors, and other creators to discuss and convey this journey that I've had for this entire incarnation. There are things that we're going to, like I said, talk about that they may... some things I'm not going to talk about because you may not even believe it, but some you may. We'll just see if it blows your mind like I think it will. And again, I hope that you find value in my work, and may Thor's hammer meet the enemy soon. So anyway, all right, now we got that out of the way. Hello again, everyone, and it's good to see you. Thank you for joining me. So, narcissism. Narcissism seems to be a spectrum. On one end, you have kindness and creation, and you may have different terms. That's okay. We can agree on one thing, that there seems to be an order in the universe, at least the known universe, and some of it that we may not know. And that on the other end, there is chaos and dysfunction. And the sad thing is that on the other end of that spectrum, the chaos and dysfunction, there are people, we'll call them people for lack of a better term, are instigating this behavior. And they're instigating the behavior in all populations. We can see it all over Earth today. Things are getting really, really weird out there, and it's very strange, and things are even beyond the bizarre things that are happening of what I thought was going to happen anyway. I'm usually pretty good at picking those things out. There's two things that I want to impart to you, that I'm not really that great at anything. Okay, I'm pretty good at some things, and I am a business owner, and I have some hobbies and whatnot. But never the a number one fella on really any of it. There are two things that I'm really good at, and one of them is self-improvement. I believe that if there was a first prize for self-improvement, I should get it, because I was in, as another fellow I really respect called it, open rebellion in my later teenage years and early 20s, up to about 22 years old. And the other thing is global politics, and what I know about that I can't even discuss on this platform, or they will shut me down. And here's the deal. These things have everything to do with what we're talking about. So let's start at day one on this earth. Okay, it's going to be odd. We're going to talk about spirituality, the narcopath. Those of you that are watching these channels, those of you that are trying to suss out the chaos of what's happening, can appreciate some of these. So anyway, we're going to go back to day one. I was born to an absolute narcopath, possibly a psychopath, the person that we will term my mother. Very, very nasty individual. We're going to talk about cause and effect, why people are born to certain people. Remember, you had something to do with who you were born to, so the constant bitching about it isn't going to do anything. And cause and effect, or karma for lack of a better term, is very complicated. It doesn't mean that you were a really bad parent at some point in time, or you treated them poorly or whatnot. It can mean that. It can mean that as well, but things are more complicated. It's very complex when you're speaking of these things. And by the way, if you don't agree with me on my belief system, that's all right, but I really don't feel like I want to get in arguments with you in the comments section about trying to push, especially the desert religions or the Abrahamic religions. If it, I would like to refrain from that conversation for now. There may be a time that I breach that subject, but for now, it's not my system. So anyway, go back to day one. This is going to sound unbelievable to you, and it's unbelievable to me, but I know that it's true, and I'm going to tell you why. I do remember the day that I was born. I remember when the nurse put me on my mother, and my heart sank. I saw this person. I was like, oh, God damn it, man, really? And, I had verbal, I was speaking, I couldn't speak, obviously being only hours old, but I was speaking in my mind. I knew, I had language, I just hadn't formed it yet. And I know this sounds crazy, I know it sounds unbelievable. We're going to start at the beginning, and we're going to see how this goes. There's some people are going to think that I'm nuts, and that's fine, but, I'm here to try to carry you through what happened, why I was the way I was, and what happened all the way up till today. These are big parts of the story. Anyway, so I remembered that, and I never even questioned that it was an issue or that it was odd. I knew, and I remembered meeting her. I remember even what the nurse said, and I remember the nurse, what she looked like, and I knew. I mean, I had consciousness, so, and it bothered me. She said that here, meet your mother, and I was like, oh, fuck, really? I knew this was going to be a bad deal from day one. So anyhow, I know that sounds crazy, but we're going to continue with the stories and see, because there's going to be even other nuttier sounding things, but what the fuck, whatever, it's my channel, and if you don't believe it or you don't like it, you can move on, right? So anyhow, with that being said, I didn't think anything of it. I didn't think that there was any issue, even 3, 4, 5, 10 years old. It's just a memory. And one time I mentioned that I remembered the day. I remember the day that I was born, and my mother, again, it was in a room full of people. My dad was there too, and they said, well, there's no way that you can remember that. And I said, yeah. And then I began to explain the room that she was in, which was not a typical recovery room or a hospital room, because it had windows in odd places. And then when they only took me away from her after meeting her, we've known each other before. After meeting her, I told them which way they took me and what the hallway looked like and everything. And if you want to watch a narcopath lose their mind for a minute, when you tell the truth about something, they turn gray. I mean, I watched her face like, man, if he knows this, if he remembers this, what else does he remember? Like I mentioned, I'm not really that great at anything. I'm pretty good at a few things, hobbies or whatnot, but I have a couple things I'm really good at, and one of them is having a very clear and photographic memory. And it might be just from severe abuse, because you're always trying to figure things out. I suspect, I don't know, but I suspect that some of you may have this kind of memory too. But I remember things, and I can recall things in vivid detail. And when I recalled this instance, then suddenly she realized that the gaslighting that she did was no longer effective. What else does this kid remember? And I remember the way, the shock on their faces, and the quiet in the room was like, how does he know this? Did someone tell him? No, I was there. And so begins my story of this incarnation. And I hope that y'all stick with me, because I have some really crazy things to tell you. I'm not, like I said, I can't tell you everything, because A, you wouldn't believe it, and B, it would diminish the significance of what they are. But I'm going to tell you right now, it is a lack again of terms. And you're going to watch, I'll use terms that may lend themselves to the discussion, that may not lend themselves to other discussions, okay? So please try to be patient with the contradiction in some terms, all right? But it is a spiritual universe, all right? The narcopaths have lied themselves out of existence. This is a subject that I think I know a lot about. Those of us that have this kind of natural recall and a spiritual ability have not lied ourselves out of existence. Are any of us perfect? No. Have I done shitty things? Absolutely. I wouldn't be honest with you if I, came to you and told you that I was some guru or something, because I am not. But I think that I'm at the beginning stages of an awakening that seems to be happening all over Earth right now. And those of us that are having these conversations, I invite you to stick around with me. Look, if you don't like your situation, it's time to change you, because you really can't change the people around you, not for any length of time anyway. If you smell like shit, you're going to attract flies. Stop looking around and blaming everyone else for it as well. These are things that there's some hard spiritual truths that we're going to discuss too. I'm going to try to take you from literally day one up until the present moment. And there's a lot to tell. I've stood next to some very influential people. Some of these people are pariahs. Some of them I can't even tell you who they are. And I've had some very extraordinary experiences. And it's just time that I go ahead and lay these out for you. I hope that you enjoy the discussions. And I want you to keep coming back, because the discussions that I have with you are beneficial to me as well. I don't ask for PayPal. I don't even ask you to subscribe. I do like the comments though, and I like to hear what people have to say about them. So anyway, so that's day one of me with the narcopath, and I think that's probably enough for today. I let you know the direction I'm going to take this. I hope you stick with me. I hope that it benefits you, and I really do wish you all a good day. I really do. It means a lot to me for those of you that have stuck around with me for all this time. So with that, I'm going to sign off, and I hope to see you all again real soon. Thank you.